Hello, my name is Steffi Domike. I'm with the Education and Membership Development Department of the United Steelworkers, and I'm here today to introduce you to the job of the union steward. I'm going to walk you through a couple of the tasks of the union steward, and afterwards you're going to hear more specific information about filing grievances from other colleagues of mine. So in the beginning, we're going to talk about what is a union, and then we're going to talk about the steward as a communicator of that. Then, of course, we want to talk about how the steward is an educator, an organizer, and a problem solver, as well as a union leader. You're beginning to wonder, how am I going to do all of these jobs? I'm just one person. You're going to do it with a lot of support from your colleagues, and you're also going to grow into the job. The first thing you need to know is that you have a lot of support, and you also have documents that you can reference. The most important document of all is going to be your collective bargaining agreement. The steward needs to interpret the contract for the workers that you represent, but also for the company. Everybody who's covered under a collective bargaining agreement, we call it sometimes a CBA, we call it a contract, uses that contract to enforce your rights. It's a list of what has been negotiated between your union and your employer. Oftentimes the employer doesn't even pay attention to that contract. They only really pay attention when we remind them. And it's the job of the steward to really understand that contract. So you need to be able to reference that and to read it. The other important tool that you need to have with you at all times is your notebook and your pen or pencil. And I'm saying this kind of in a joking manner, but actually every time you meet with a member, every time you meet with a company, every time you go and have a conversation with a manager, you need to be able to take notes. And this is probably one of the most important tasks of being a steward, is to be able to write down and reference every event that took place between you and management and you and a member. Those notes actually become legal documents. They are a text that you can present in an arbitration hearing, and they are a very important part of defending your membership. And so remember, take notes, take good long notes, and think about them as legal documents. The first question a steward needs to consider for him or herself, but also for a new member or an old member, comes to you with a problem is, what is a union? Sometimes this is the first job that one of our members has that is a union job. This may be your first union job. And so it's important for us to think about this question. So I want to present two situations and have you think about what this means to you. A union is the exclusive bargaining agent for a group of workers for the purposes of negotiating and enforcing a collective bargaining agreement. That's one definition of a union. Here's another. A union is a grassroots organization based in the workplace that draws its strength from the visible support of its rank-and-file membership by advocating for social and economic justice for working people. Which do you think is the true meaning of a union? Is it the legal definition of the group that bargains a collective bargaining agreement? Or is it an organization that draws its strength from the rank and file? Now, we don't have time in this presentation to really engage in a good discussion about this. But we, in fact, think it's both. And you, as the steward, need to be able to explain why it is both the enforcer of the contract, but also the group that pulls people together to fight together, to act together as a union. One of the first jobs of the steward is communication. The steward is a communicator between the union and the member. Oftentimes, our members don't relate to the union in any other way but to talk to the steward. So the steward carries a great burden and is the one person who communicates our message to the membership. The stewards can solicit opinions and communicate the members' opinions back to the officers and can get a sense of the feelings and the concerns of the membership. Stewards build support among the members for contract negotiations and enforcement, as well as other issues requiring member support. Remember, the steward is the face of the union in the public, so you have to think of yourself as a communicator. An important part of communications is active listening. Now, what is that? It's actually a skill. The skill of active listening begins with asking open-ended questions. An open-ended question is one that you cannot answer with a simple yes or no. So you want to ask something like, can you tell me about this incident? Can you describe what happened? Those are considered to be open-ended questions. And when you get the answers, you want to take good notes. You want the member to be doing most of the talking. The goal is to have the member do at least 75% of the talking. When they are telling you what the problem is, you want to show empathy and not be judgmental. Perhaps the problem isn't one that you think is a big problem, but if it is to the member, then it is a problem, and we need to take it seriously. Another part of this technique is the ability to reframe the issue and perhaps tell it back to the member. So you told me that you had a problem with the evening shift. Can you tell me a little bit more about it? So you want to be able to, if you can tell them what it was, perhaps you can get back from the member how you got it right or how you got it wrong. The last thing you want to do is to follow up with the member. If you've got a real problem and you're going to be talking to management about it, you should be giving them a date when you're going to get back to them. The other piece of your toolbox that you need to always have with you, you're going to have your notebook where you're taking good notes, and then you're also going to have a calendar. And you're going to write in your calendar when you're going to get back to this member with more information. Follow-up is a key part of your job. A second and important part of your job is to be an educator. Like I said before, the steward is often the only person that your member might actually come in contact with who's involved with the union. So the steward needs to be able to educate membership about the contract. You need to educate the member about employer practices and policies that you know about. The steward needs to be aware of relevant labor law. And the steward needs to know who the membership is, who the employer is, and any other kinds of programs that your union might be involved in that might be relevant. Now, when do you do this education? You can do this education at any time that you speak with a member. Any opportunity you have to speak with a member is a chance to educate the member. It's suggested that the first day that a new employee comes to work is the first opportunity that you might take to educate that member. There's two things that you want to do. One is to offer a copy of the contract to the new member and offer your contact information. That's contract and contact. Any new member or an older member who may not have that should have a copy of the contract for themselves and the contact information for you as their union steward. The third job of a union steward is actually a union organizer. As I said before, the first time a steward meets a new member, the steward will give that new member a contract and the contact information for getting back to the steward. The steward also needs to know about the membership and perhaps writes down important demographic information about the members. We want to know where people live. We want to know who we are. We want to know how to get back in touch with our membership. So it's your job as a steward to put together a list, a mailing list, a phone list, a contact list. Oftentimes we need to communicate with our membership maybe about changing policies, things that might be newly available from the union, a new contract or contract negotiations. Some locals develop phone call lists or phone trees. Some locals do one-on-one communication, trying to talk to every member. Email communication is very popular, and so is texting and social media. So you need to put together a system that works for you and for the members you represent. Stewards also coordinate and lead collective actions in support of the union's agenda, and that will help to test and strengthen these workplace ties and communication networks. The more we begin to act like a community of people who care about each other, the stronger the union will become. This is a quote from the Executive Director of the Interfaith Worker Justice Initiative. Direct action organizations mobilize the power that people have. In doing so, they teach the value of united action through real-life examples and build the self-confidence of both the organization and the individuals in it. Giving people a sense of their own power is as much a part of the organizing goal as is solving the problem. The fourth job of the union steward is as a problem solver. The steward's role as a problem solver typically arises in two areas. One is avoiding or mitigating disciplinary actions against members for misconduct and/or incompetence. Two, addressing violations of member rights and privileges under the contract. You're going to hear more about being a problem solver in subsequent parts of this training. I hope you can now explain the various roles and special status of the union steward in the workplace and apply active listening skills when members approach you with problems. In subsequent videos, you will learn more about how to effectively represent your members in disciplinary situations and understand more about the role of contract grievances in protecting and defending member rights in the workplace. Thank you.